High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Dodge Mattingly. Tuck waits one. Deep left field. Down the line. That ball is out of here. Out of here.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tablesetters covering all things Major League Baseball. As always, I'm Steve, joined with my tag team partner, Devin. What's going on, man?
What's up? What's up? Episode 86, a special number to me as a Met fan here. So hopefully this episode is amazing to everybody, and you got to believe in us here. I got to say, nothing better than recording this podcast while MLB Big Inning is on MLB Network. Those of you familiar with it, I think we can all agree they just don't put this on often enough.
I wish it was available every single day. I know the amount of work that would go into it. It is akin, if you guys are not familiar, to the Scott Hansen production that is Red Zone that we all know and love. But I love it. I think it would bridge a lot of the ADHD, maybe highlight-based baseball fans to be involved in the game. And it's fun to watch all the games at one time being on your screen and having the DJ do it for you, because you could do that on MLB TV, but to have someone guiding you through the games and being able to format it through it with AI and the formulas that they can probably have that, I'm sure you can include it and somehow weave it into your MLB TV thing, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, Devin.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where AI takes us. Probably some scary places, but maybe one day we can get this moving. But it's just so, especially when your team, like the Mets, are on the West Coast, so they don't play till 10:10. I got another half hour or so until they're on. There's nothing better than watching the rest of the games this way.
I agree with that. And if you guys want to support the show on here at Tablesetters Pod on the IG and also on the X Machine at Tablesetters Pod, one of these days we'll be streaming live on Twitter. Devin and I were discussing that about getting some of the feedback live and in action, and we can do that on Twitter and potentially Instagram if you guys have an interest in that. I know that's most of the content that people consume is on the X Machine, so we want to be able to go live one of these days and engage you guys, because I love the Twitter Spaces, but it would be cool to have this format going live. We drop the audio the next day, and nothing really needs to change because we can use StreamYard. Just a matter of linking that up and making sure we have everything lined up for the day we record.
Yeah, it would be a cool change. We know we don't have it scheduled yet, but we've thought about it for a while. And once we do it, I think it'll be cool just to see, like, we'll have our outline and our topics as we always do that we want to cover, but to get kind of some live feedback from other people or questions, or who knows which way it goes, what kind of twists and turns it takes. That live feel makes things a little bit different. So we're going to try it out at some point here.
So let's head into our opening say here at our big topic that everybody around baseball is talking about. As we were making this outline for this earlier in the day, and the biggest story of right now, the early part of the season, the Detroit Tigers, yes, those Tigers have become the first team in Major League Baseball to reach 40 wins this season. So they pounded the White Sox 13-1 last night. They now sit at 40-21, leading both the AL Central and the entire league in the latest MLB Power Rankings exclusive on MLB.com. And as we saw last year, it was easy to look at them and say, maybe this is a flash in the pan hot streak we saw as they made their surge post-trade deadline. But I feel like the numbers are saying this team is actually for real. And we're going to dig into the numbers and the stats and what we're really impressed with. But your initial gut feeling on these Tigers that just keep winning.
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to last season, that incredible run they made the last quarter of the season or so to get themselves into the playoffs, which seemed improbable for most of the season for them. And then the little run they made in the playoffs. I mean, they had moments against Emmanuel Clase and things like that, like where they looked dead in the water. A very, very young team. And when you are kind of fortunate enough to have that experience so early on in like the time this team has been together, they came into this season fully believing, like they saw how good they could be. And I mean, I think that's what a lot of teams just need to see, is what they're actually capable of. And they know what they're capable of. And they came back with some reinforcements this year as well. So I think it goes back mentally to that. And like you said, I'm sure you and I probably have some of the same numbers that we want to highlight here. But I think the question is, do you and I, we know the Tigers believe in themselves. We know they're the first to 40 wins. Do we believe in them?
Well, I'm looking at some of the offense here, and it's hard not to buy into the numbers. Kerry Carpenter last night hit 3 home runs in the blowout we mentioned with the White Sox. So now he joins Spencer Torkelson, who has 14 home runs, Riley Greene, who has 13, and they're the first trio of Tigers to each reach 13 plus home runs before June since 1962, when we had Norm Cash, Rocky Cavalito, and Al Kaline were doing it. So you don't really accidentally wind up making history. This numbers, the offensive stuff is backing it up. And looking at right now, too, Torkelson and Green, we mentioned them before being a part of that trio. They entered June as the only set of AL teammates with 13 plus home runs and 40 plus RBIs, which is a first in Tigers franchise history. So a lot of stuff going on here that you're looking at the elite level, middle of the order production. You get power and run driving consistency that is anchoring the lineup. And honestly, dude, like as we continue to look at this, the Tigers offense is absolutely for real. And I think for the both of us, I don't think it's slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, so that's exactly where I was going to go here, and I'll get into some of the numbers as a team. If we look at the offense first, they are top 10 as a team in slugging percentage, on-base percentage, home runs, WRC plus. If you want to get to the advanced stuff, StatCast kind of stuff, barrel percentage as well. Plus 98 run differential going into tonight, which was tied for best in the league with the Yankees. 25-17 versus teams with winning records. I think I added that up correctly previously tonight. So those are all good numbers. And then you get into the pitching. You want to make sure, if you're going to say you believe in these guys as a top team in Major League Baseball, as a World Series threat, you have to feel like they're well balanced. Pitching categories, top 10 in walk per 9, top 10 in home runs per 9, ERA, left on base percentage. So they're for real there. And let's not forget, they are led by maybe the best pitcher in baseball, a true ace, a true stopper in Tarek Skubal. So solid pitching behind him as well. Elite ace, solid pitching behind him. You mentioned the sluggers and Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter, vets that have been there before. Flaherty back in the fold. Say what you want of whether you think his performance is up to par this year or not. He's been there, done that at this point. Gleyber Torres as well, obviously a part of the World Series last year, played under the bright lights of the Bronx for many years. And one of the things I like best is they have all that balance, and they also have a minor league system that could potentially help them add to increase their chances of making noise in the playoffs to their current roster. And when I think of the Tigers and where they are and that other stuff they have that they could move for more, it makes me think of the Orioles the last 2 years and how they messed it up. And I hope that is a cautionary tale to the Detroit Tigers to not be prospect huggers. I'm not saying go out and trade Max Clark away and a guy like that, but you have some other really impressive and enticing pieces a little further down the list that if you let go of, maybe you can add to that rotation. Maybe you can get another offensive piece. Maybe the back end of the bullpen, you can put a, more reputable closer back there. But it's a little bit mix and match, but I like everything going on in Detroit.
And we watched them sustain the early pace of winning all the way into June. We had them winning 19 games before May 1st, and they're not doing it in fluky ways. Last week, we spent quite a good bit of time talking about Tarek Skubal and that Maddox 13 strikeout complete game shutout with under 100 pitches, with 94 to be exact over here. So I think the question's not if we believe. I guess the real question is now, how far can this team go? And we don't have the answer to that question at this point, but it certainly feels like this team is a team to be reckoned with come October if all things continue in the trajectory it is. And we have every reason to believe they will be hanging around and be a real threat, not just to go win a round in the playoffs, maybe potentially be holding that trophy up at the end of the year. And I think that's how serious it is right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, as we go through the season, a lot of it comes down to health. And are you limping into the playoffs? Are you beat up, or are you fairly healthy? But like, as we sit here now, that's what we can analyze. We can't predict the future and who's going to be out there and who's not. I like how they match up with everybody else in the American League. It's a tale as old as time for the last year or so. We all know the American League is a lot weaker than the National League as far as how many really, really legit teams there are. With that being said, you got to compare yourself to the Yankees. I don't think they match up poorly against the Yankees. I'm not going to sit here and say I think they're better, but I think that's a potentially a hell of a matchup and a fun series to watch. I like the Tigers better than any team in the AL West, and they obviously sit on top of the AL Central. So they've proven that they could be the top team in that division. So I'm looking squarely at how they match up with the New York Yankees right now.
So you mentioned the Yankees before. One of the things we want to discuss in the opening say is obviously the Yankees and the Dodgers with a rematch of last year's World Series wound up as the showcase matchup on Sunday Night Baseball. And with that, it received the highest audience in over 7 years. 2.7 million viewers tuned in to watch the Yankees and the Dodgers do battle in the rubber game over there. Obviously, the Dodgers absolutely demolished the Yankees on Saturday with an absolute drubbing on their end. But we had a nice competitive game on Sunday that everyone was tuning in for. So I guess the conversation here, and we spent a good bit of time talking about this when the news dropped. 2025 marks the final season of ESPN's weekly Sunday Night Showcase, and it's absolutely too late to turn around. I'm sure maybe there's some buyer's remorse or regret in the other direction from ESPN's part, and this isn't a deal teetering on the edge. It feels like Rob Manfred burned that bridge. He didn't just walk away from ESPN. He pretty much lit the match on the way out. And he said, if you guys remember, that ESPN is a shrinking platform. I mean, he minced no words, Devin, if you remember this. So, and he said, quote, "We have not been pleased with the minimal coverage," which we definitely applauded Rob Manfred in that. But looking at 2.7 million tuning in last Sunday, is this something that ESPN regrets? Is this something we're going to look at as they're going to revisit the deal? Or are we looking at just saying goodbye to ESPN and baseball's relationship forever?
I mean, I hope they go on to regret it. They don't deserve Major League Baseball at this point. I mean, I'm so glad they're leaving. I know NBC apparently is interested, and that report came out a few weeks ago that there might be some negotiation there. But yeah, no, it's time to go. ESPN, I mean, Rob Manfred, I don't agree with him on a lot of things, to be honest. But I do agree with him as far as ESPN is a shrinking platform. The world of sports is big now. ESPN is no longer the center of it. And part of it, they've become more of an entertainment kind of platform. I think one of our motivations to do a podcast like we do is to kind of do it in the old school style of the old baseball tonight, where it's like all baseball every single night. We're just getting into the nitty gritty stuff about it, where now you turn on ESPN. If you look for baseball coverage, it's hard to find, or just doesn't feel like there's truly knowledgeable people. And it's not deep insight at all. So yeah, I hope they regret it. I think maybe they will, but I surely don't want that relationship to be renewed. I want that to be done at least for a decade or so.
I mean, outside of the NFL, what are you putting on in that spot that's going to get one of those ratings? I mean, the NBA, I would imagine, would get that rating, 2.7 million. But as far as live entertainment goes, it's not something you want to let go. So obviously, ESPN, I think they're going to come to regret this. You don't want to give up live sports programming. That is the cash cow, and you can continue to make money. I think NFL has the best model, maybe not for the fans, but for the financial success of the shield that is the NFL, spreading out the game across all these platforms, milking your fans dry as far as cash goes. That is the platform. That is the blueprint for the MLB. And I think we're going to see more of that, where you have games like we had Friday night on Apple TV. If you don't have the subscription, you can't watch, and all these things. And it's almost just better to have traditional cable. When you go back in the day and look at it, it's like, we might as well just pay the straight up cable price of what it is, because now you're paying all these streaming services to watch 162 baseball games of your favorite team.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like how do you replace that time slot and stuff, I've heard rumors that they may just do like a live stream of LeBron and Bronny James's like every breath. Like just keep a live, like Truman Show style, like watch their whole life every second of the day, what they're eating, all that kind of stuff, how many bowel movements they've had. So look out for that, I guess.
It's Devin going right in on ESPN. We're going to hop into the meat of the order here. We have a lot of news to break down around Major League Baseball, and we're going to hop in with some injury news to start. As we mentioned, the Yankees got a much-needed win on Sunday night in LA, avoiding a sweep with the 7-3 victory over the Dodgers, but we saw it may have come at a cost. Luke Weaver, probably the Yankees' most reliable reliever, strained his hamstring while warming up in the ninth inning, and according to Devin's favorite platform, ESPN, he's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. So he officially was placed on the IL at this point, and Aaron Boone described something to Weaver, quote, felt something in the middle of his hammy during pre-inning stretches. It's a major blow at this point. So I think we're expecting Devin Williams to step back into that ninth inning role. Obviously, notched that save, held everyone's breath against the Angels. And he's pitched to a solid 3.29 ERA, and He got removed from the closer's role, and consistency definitely hasn't been his calling card this year. But this is an opportunity for Devin Williams to rest comfortably in that role because Weaver's not coming back anytime soon. And you look at the guys in the setup role, maybe it's Fernando Cruz. You got Johnny Lozani out there. Like maybe they could step up, but this is Devin Williams' role. And this is why you brought him in here. You did move a good piece for him to get him out from Milwaukee. Like you need this guy to step up, and it's his job, dude. So like the Yankee fans are going to have to sink or swim with Devin Williams on the hill when the going gets tough in the ninth inning.
Yeah, I mean, well, Devin Williams also just actually closed out the Guardians. It got a little messy there. The tying run was on second, I believe, with 2 outs, and line drive to Bellinger to end it. So he didn't look great, but also didn't look terrible. I mean, the results have been very mixed. I think that's a nice way to put it. But March and April, you kind of have to put that in the rear view. An ERA of 9 back then. May, which is now in the rear view as well, 4.22, which is not great, but it's more than cut in half from March and April. So you'll take it. It's heading in the right direction. There's some things to still be concerned about. High leverage situations, batters are hitting 261 against him. That was before tonight. So you'd like that number to be lower, certainly as a closer. The biggest worry, I think, is the changeup. That's his out pitch. That's what he's known for. And it just hasn't performed super well this year, worse than ever, honestly. 268 expected batting average against that pitch this year compared to 138 last year. I mean, that's a giant difference. So if you're looking to see and try to figure out, is Devin Williams going to get back to the dominant Devin Williams we've seen previously, look for that pitch and how that pitch is performing. I think that'll tell you most of the story. On the good side, 10 of his, and this is before tonight, 10 of his last 11 outings had been scoreless. You mentioned that one game against the Angels, 2 earned runs on 3 hits, May 27th. Gave up a run and some hits tonight as well. But listen, he's been there before. I think he's starting to look a little more comfortable in New York under those lights. And as far as the Luke Weaver part of the story, I'm not overly concerned about him missing 4 to 6 weeks. It's early June. 4 to 6 weeks in the world today is not that long of a time for a closer here. And I feel like it's a good chance for Devin Williams to kind of reassert himself and bring his confidence back up. And in my mind, I don't know how you feel, no matter how he does, let's say Devin Williams is just downright amazing for the next month. I still think Luke Weaver comes back and he goes back to the 9th and Devin Williams goes back to the 8th.
I mean, they made that mistake at the beginning of the year by giving Devin Williams the spot without proving himself. I think Weaver proved himself in high leverage games. He was their rock, continued to be their rock this year, and he's Boone's most trusted arm. I think they'll bring him out in any single capacity when you need to get outs in a big spot. We watched him do it in October and came up big for the Yankees time in and time out. So you look at all the turnover in the bullpen and the changes you've seen. You mentioned the advanced stats on your end. They still rank top 10 in a lot of categories in WAR and win probability added. So it's not like this bullpen hasn't been there for the Yankees. I think everyone remembers, as you mentioned, the early part of the season with Devin Williams, and it's hard not to remember him getting booed in the Bronx and the blow up that happened, but he's been wildly better at this point. And this group holding the line, I know it's not sexy names. Like I mentioned, Fernando Cruz, he came back tonight. He's available as a setup guy. Jonathan Loaizaga, that's an understated get back as well. About 2 weeks ago that he came back. These are pieces that are going to be stable for the bullpen. And the Yankees right now, again, they played well tonight. You mentioned them closing it out against Cleveland. This is a team that, even though they let's be honest, got embarrassed in that second game against the Dodgers, they have a team that is able to overcome adversity and not let these games start to roll into multiple streaks of losses. And we watched that again tonight. They go back home. They win a game they should win, and they continue to hold the lead in the AL East. And it seems like we mentioned the Tigers, but the Yankees have been rolling. And even though Luke Weaver is hurt and he's going to miss over a month, and the group's going to have to hold the line, will the bullpen depth be enough to carry him through June without their most stable piece? All signs point to yes. So the Yankees have done everything right to prove that they're there. Let's see if they can piece it together, and if Aaron Boone can manage this bullpen and save these arms. And I gotta say, dude, like I don't know if SNY does this, but the Yankees have the bullpen budget that they put on the board during the broadcast, where they show how many pitches are thrown, and when it's over a certain amount, they make it in red. It is the best absolute graphic that I've seen on a baseball broadcast in a very long time, because it's like conceptually you're able to understand the overworked bullpens. And when you see it just puts it in a good perspective. So shout out to Yes for creating something like that.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that before or something like it. Maybe it was on Yes, because I can't necessarily say SNY does that, at least on a nightly basis. They may break it out from time to time, but maybe I did see that on Yes. I like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm confident in the Yanks. I just don't. I wasn't a big fan of their prospects, like how they were going to do this year preseason. As if you listen to the AL East preview, you know I wasn't super high on the Yankees' chances. But watching them for a few months here, I don't know. I've said this to you. I think I said it to you last week. There's just a look of confidence, and they just look like they expect to win. And if they lose, it's just back in the clubhouse and back out next night. I mean, like you said, that Dodgers series, those first two games were really concerning because it just, everyone talks about it. We already said it once on this podcast. The American League is just nowhere near as good as the National League. So you see the Yankees go out there and get beat up, especially in that second game in embarrassing fashion. And it just kind of accentuates like, all right, Yankees are good in the AL, but when they match up against the best in the NL, not great. So winning that last game of that series, you said it was huge. And coming out, this week, I think they have to reestablish themselves at home. But yeah, I'm not super worried about them. Listen, if Devin Williams goes out there and blows a bunch of saves and they don't really know who else to turn to, that will concern me because, some of these other teams in the AL East are very capable of going on runs. We've seen the Rays have a streak. We've seen Toronto have a streak. I think Boston, if they can ever get their shit together, is capable of having a streak. Baltimore finally put some games consecutively together recently. So you don't want to take a step backwards as the Yankees. I will say I'm less concerned about Devin Williams and maybe more concerned about the other guys that all have to move up a peg or two and have a little bit more responsibility.
So you touched on the Red Sox there, and there was news, and one of our favorite things to do on podcasts here is to make matches and be matchmaker, or however you want to put it. And we have the Padres are reportedly eyeing Jarren Duran as a potential trade target to address their, let's be obvious, glaring need in left field. So we have Dennis Lin of The Athletic coming out about and released a report that the Padres maintain interest in Duran dating all the way back to last year. And looking at their current revolving door in left field, it makes sense to revisit the conversation now. So you can go through the conversation about left field being a black hole from them. They had 8 different players in that spot for quite some time. I mean, go through the names. It's a mix of injuries. You got glove first utility guys out there, struggling veterans. Nobody has stuck out there. But Jarren Duran, I mean, this player at this point, we discussed him at length last year. Breakout season for him. He can immediately, for them, bring speed, defense, and offensive upside. I don't think anyone's questioning why San Diego would want him in the lineup. 21 home runs last year, 34 stolen bases, strong defense. We're seeing a step back this year. The numbers are definitely still solid, but we're not seeing the electricity, and that's across all of Boston right now. So I think maybe we'll eventually see, as the weather warms up at Fenway Park, Jarren Duran start to pick up a little bit. I guess the question is, can the Red Sox be convinced to part with him? And I guess you can look at the names, the ones we're familiar with, the Marcelo Meyer, the Roman Anthony's, Christian Campbell. Are they willing to part with players of the like and bring them up in that spot and let Jarren Duran go in any capacity and make it make sense with the Padres? Because we know that on their end, the Padres have done deals like this. I understand it's a different ownership team. They've been in places to just mortgage the farm, and the Red Sox are in a place where, similar to the Baltimore situation, they have no places for some of these players. So does it make sense to let Duran go elsewhere and sell high in a player that maybe they're not buying, that last year was the complete package? I don't know. Personally, I don't give up on a guy like Jarren Duran. What we saw last year, he could be a top 10 player in baseball. So, but then again, look at the guys they have coming up. Like I mentioned, the Roman Anthony's, the Christian Campbells, the Marcelo Myers. Like those guys are maybe the trio they want to build around. Maybe Jarren Duran doesn't fit in that picture.
Yeah, well, the Red Sox are a mess, first of all. I mean, let me say that. Like, just this week, just like within the week, we had Christian Campbell taking grounders at first, like, oh, he's going to get his first start at first base. And then that was suddenly tabled. Like, we're going to table that for now. And then you get a video suddenly of Rafi Devers with a glove on, also taking grounders at first. Then they asked Alex Cora about that, and he said, yeah, I didn't know that was happening. Why? Everything Rafi Devers does, it seems like the rest of the Red Sox management doesn't realize he's going to do it or say it. It's just over and over and over again. I don't know. On the Padres side of it, I mean, I love the Duran fit there. I mean, this is the Padres. It makes me laugh because there's always a Padres rumor because, yeah, you said different ownership, but it's still AJ Preller. And, he likes to play around and he's not afraid to pull the trigger on a deal. I don't know how they match up. I know people, of course, Red Sox fans mention DeVries's name. He's not going anywhere. I mean, people say he is going to be the next stud. And I could see it if you read up on him, you watch some of his stuff. As far as is Duran the odd man out with Roman Anthony needing an outfield spot? I think that'd be a mistake. I think Duran should be here. I think Anthony should be here with him. To me, I think Roman Anthony's spot needs to be either Rafaela's or Abreu's. And I know Abreu got off to a crazy start, but he's cooled way off. He has some trouble, some mixed results. Rafaela, obviously, glove first, great glove. But Roman Anthony, I mean, everything points to superstar. So you got to figure this out sooner than later. I don't know. I don't know what direction to go in, and I'm starting not to trust them. I know we probably even said it last year or the last 2 years when we talked about all the Orioles stuff and the log jam they had. A line that we hear a lot is these things tend to work themselves out. And what people are alluding to is like someone gets a little injury and then they can come up and fill that spot and blah, blah, blah. Well, let's be honest. These things didn't just work themselves out in Baltimore. And now they're a losing squad. So I think it does pay to try to get ahead of this logjam a little bit, figure it out. I hope they have a plan because half the time it doesn't seem like any of these dudes in Boston are on the same page.
And the thing is, we can talk about hypotheticals, and unless both teams are motivated to be the ultimate match with each other, we know San Diego's farm system outside of the two top, Ethan Salas and Leo DeVry, or how do you say his name? I know he's going to be the absolute superstar that we're looking at.
I said DeVries. DeVry sounds better. I hope you're right.
But either way, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle to match a package from deeper systems. Let's be honest here. We love the fit, like in an MLB The Show type of trade scenario. Yes,
Right.
you can see him in a Padres uniform. But what makes Duran so valuable is team control until 2028. He's making just $3.75 million and comes at a club option for next year that could escalate to only $12 million. So he's cost controlled and it's a premium position for the Red Sox. And I know you have depth behind him, but it seems like Duran is the guaranteed thing. And I guess you can assume that Meyer, Anthony, obviously Christian Campbell's already there. Meyer's there now too. And these guys are guaranteed they're going to be good, but something the Red Sox may want to hold on to. I mean, unless they're truly pivoting towards the next wave and they're wiping this year clean of maybe it's just a lost season. I don't see moving on from a guy like Jarren Duran because it just feels like an odd move. But this is a team, like you mentioned before, that doesn't seem like they have the finger on the pulse of what is actually going on. You mentioned the Rafi stuff, but I think that is diagnostically a precursor to everything going on with them. They have no idea actually what's happening on behind the scenes. And if Boston starts to fade even further in the divisional race, even the wild card race, and they do promote Roman Anthony, Duran feels like he's that guy and that you can get the most from him. I think Rafaela, Abreu, Rob Refschneider, those are dudes that probably you should move on from. That's logically what you should do and not let go of a Duran player. But you can't afford to rotate through glove first journeyman in left field on San Diego's side. So if there is a chance that you can make this happen, it makes sense on the end but you're going to have to part with one of those two top prospects. No doubt about it. San Diego has to give that up. And maybe it's Ethan Salas, but do the Red Sox really want to invest in a catcher at that position? Like, I understand Salas's bat is remarkable. We love what he brings to the table, the advanced stats, but are you looking at Salas as that game changer for the Red Sox going forward? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that like in that rumor, we only hear about them being interested in Duran. Like, would they have any interest in Rafaela or Abreu to fill that left field spot? Like, it's at least worth thinking about. And if they're in contact at all, and I'm not sure they actually are, but if they are, you would think they're going over different names as well and see if they match up. Sometimes they just don't. You just don't match up because even if I liked the idea of the Red Sox trading Duran to San Diego, which I don't, but even if I did, it's like, what is San Diego giving back? Because again, you mentioned, the top prospects. I don't see them doing that. I know Preller is fine giving away prospects, but in this case, I just think that price is a little too high for Duran on what so far has been a down season for him.
And let's not forget Masataka Yoshida is going to be back soon. He was playing catch in the outfield yesterday. So
Oh my
he's
God,
another
guy.
he's another depth piece in the outfield. But I think you're right. Like trading Rafaela, he is a player you can get a decent package back from. Will it get you a top prospect in somebody's system? Probably not. But I think Rafaela could be a contributor in any lineup and you make the room there. But it is a good problem to have, but it also can quickly turn into a bad problem. We watched what happened with Baltimore and you hit the wrong button. All of a sudden you eject yourself out of the spaceship. You're no longer even like flying towards playoff contention. And Boston doesn't want to do that for themselves. They were well above the pace that we were. Let's not forget that where they were last year, they definitely exceeded expectations. And I think everyone came into this year. You did as well. I did. We all love what we saw from them. And now maybe there's a little bit of coming down to earth, and it does. I think it begins and ends with a guy like Jaron Duran. He was the spark plug, and if he gets going, and let's be honest, they're not that far out of a crowded AL playoff race. They're not. Right. They're not eliminated by any means. They're not historically bad. This is a team that's right there. They're close to 500. At any point, you ring off 9 of 10, 11 of 12 situation. The Red Sox could get hot come summer. And we know playing at Fenway Park, they love that shit. So this is a conversation you have to have, but I think looking at the front office, looking at Alex Cora, looking at these press conferences and watching the way this team is being managed on and off the field, there is a lack of consistency that if this happened, wouldn't be shocking. You know, that's where I'm at right now with the Boston Red Sox and the situation over there, taking the temperature of the room.
Yeah. I mean, you're playing with fire when you're considering once again trading a homegrown, beloved outfielder to the West Coast. Before he even maybe reaches his prime. But you know what, for Boston, I'll end it on this is if you didn't have both Bregman and Cassis, especially Bregman, out long term, and their record was 29-33, like if those guys were there, I wouldn't be worried right now. I'd be like, they're going to go on a run here. They're going to run off 7, 8, maybe even 9 at some point. They're going to get hot. With those two guys out, again, especially Bregman, who I just feel like immediately became the clubhouse leader and was also playing really well, I'm very concerned. It just seems like a mess, and I don't know. I don't know if they have the ability or capacity right now to turn it around.
Percentage wise on your end, what are you putting it at? If you have to go from 0 to 100, that this happens by the trade deadline.
Specifically, Duran to San Diego, or Duran being traded anywhere?
Duran traded in general.
5%.
I'm with you with that. Because I look at the team control, the money there. Makes no sense to move on from it. 2029, you have control of this player. 2028, it's wild to think you'd move on from a player that consistent that we saw for one season. Yeah, right. He's struggling this year, and I'll talk about him. He is one of my ice cold players. Just a little spoiler alert as we get there, but there's a reason to believe he's been there. He put it together for a whole season last year.
Exactly, and I don't think you trade a guy like that when his value is lower right now. Like, wouldn't you trade him high? You know.
I would agree with that. But again, Boston feels like they're doing everything in the opposite direction. But let's head with, we talk about hypothetically great Hall of Fame outfielders. Let's go with one who's 100% going to be a Hall of Fame outfielder when it's all said and done. He'll be enshrined in Cooperstown. Mike Trout is reminding everybody exactly who he is. He missed a month with that bruised left knee, came back with a vengeance. And on Monday night in Boston, he launched a 454-foot home run at Fenway, which is the longest hit in that ballpark this year. Finished that night 3 for 5, a 3-run shot in the first inning, which is the Angels' offensive explosion that saw them hit 3 home runs in the first inning, which is the first in Fenway Park's 114-year history. So
which is
crazy stat. When I saw that pop up, I was like, that park's been around forever. Yeah. And for that to happen for the first time, feels like that could have happened last year, right?
Yeah, that I saw that and I had to check the source. I'm like, is this like a fake one? Like, how in all that history was that the first time that happened? It's amazing. But yeah, Mike Trout, it's nice to see him come back and just immediately get back into it. This includes tonight's game, which I think they're in extras right now in Boston. The Angels actually just took the lead a bit ago, 4-3, bottom 10, Boston trying to give it a shot to keep the game moving. But Trout, if you include tonight, 9 for 18 since coming back, 1 home run, 5 RBIs. The only disappointment is the Angels had that win streak. I don't know what it was, a week or two ago. We talked about it a little bit and got themselves back in the picture a little bit. And since then, they're 3-7 in their last 10. So they kind of came back a little bit to the pack again. But I think they're only 5.5 games out in their division, so they're still relevant. And I just want to, we're talking about Trout, but shout out to Zach Neto, man. This guy, I feel like every time I look at an Angels box score, he's doing something to contribute, whether it's a home run, he hits plenty of those, or something else. He's just, I see his name all over the box score constantly. 10 home runs in 41 games since he returned. Remember, he started the season injured. I love that dude. I think he's quickly emerging as a star, one of the best shortstops in the league. I don't think that's hyperbole. I think he's that good. But yeah, I mean, the Angels, it's nice to see them at least compete here, and hopefully Trout, hopefully that knee thing was just a bump in the road, and we see him mostly in the lineup for the rest of the season. I know how many times have we said that, but I want to see the Angels stay in it a little bit. Do you think they have a legit shot?
I think so. I mean, you mentioned Neto, and I like some of the pieces we're seeing this year, and they're hanging around. I think they look a little bit sharper than we've seen in years past. And if Trout can stay healthy and be in that lineup, I give this team a chance to be competitive. And it doesn't feel like anyone's taking the West and running with it. So they're going to be
Right.
they're going to be hanging around. And with that extra wild card spot, there's no reason to believe that they can at least compete come later this year. The one thing about Trout that, like, obviously everyone wants to look at that 454-foot home run at Fenway, and everyone's excited about it. The one thing I took away from this was late in the game, he grounded into a double play, and he was hustling down the line, no issues with the knee. And they asked him about it in the post game, and he said that the knee feels good. And I love to see that from Trout, because even when he came back from some of those injuries we saw with lower body injuries, Trout would run down the line, and he wasn't having that same explosion we saw in his early years. And I felt like we saw a little bit of that jump last year. Maybe I'm just hoping to see that spark, but when I saw him busting down the line, I'm like, dude, Trout feels like he's there and he's not taking this for granted. So you mentioned before, I mean, raising his average from the 179 before he got hurt, he's jumping up in different spots. So, I mean, Trout, dude, I mean, I understand. I feel like you and I are getting old at this point, because I'm looking at him hitting on these franchise lists, and they put him on the broadcast where he had, at this point, he added another hit tonight. So he has 1,676 career hits, and only Garrett Anderson is ahead of him. So he's third right now, Tim Salmon being number one. This is a guy who's going to go down as one of the all-time greats and one of the all-time great Angels of all time. And a historic franchise. People want to rag on the Angels. A lot of great players coming up and down through the California Angels, the Anaheim Angels, and Mike Trout might be the greatest Angel of all time.
You know, it just dawned on me, and I'm sure if there's Angel fans listening, they're gonna be like, "It just dawned on you, really?" I'm sure this has been talked about before. But it's kind of weird that you had Tim Salmon, and now you have Mike Trout. Like, did you ever think about that? Like the
I
fish
did
thing?
think about it. Yeah, no, for sure. When he
It's weird.
first came up, it was a thing, because they used to
I
wear
don't.
the salmon hat, and then they did the same thing with Trout.
Yeah, I don't know why this is just maybe I don't know. Maybe I've hit my head too many times, but this like, you said salmon and then trout, and I'm like, holy shit, fish. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I hope that they stay in it and they stick in it, and I want Mike Trout to be a part of it. It just would be cool to finally see he and Neto and Logan O'Hoppe like lead that team together. When it comes down to it, if those guys are healthy, it's going to come down to what they can get out of the pitching. Like, can they get enough pitching to stay relevant?
Yeah, and the thing is, too, watching what they did in the offseason, you and I were heavily critical of what they were bringing to the table, and it seems like they have done enough to at least be competitive this year thus far. And I know the extra wild card spot adds a little bit of grace for that. But moving on to our next story here, the Brewers wound up dropping a game tonight. It feels like it always happens when we have a team
Yeah,
that streak and we put a
it's
story
like
in
a
here.
curse.
So before tonight, when the Brewers dropped the game 4-2 to the Reds, they had won 8 in a row. One of the hottest teams in baseball. They got a 3-2 win over the Reds Monday night in Cincinnati. It was the longest win streak on their end since August of 2023. Timely hitting, good pitching, and Christian Yelich, a little bit of magic. So he hit that go-ahead solo home run in the third, which was a tie-breaking blast. It proved to be really the difference here. And Aaron Savali, solid performance, 5 1/3, 2 runs, 7 hits, 5 strikeouts, got the win for them. The bullpen shut the door on their end. McGill closed it with a 1-2-3 ninth, 12 save the season. But I think a lot of the Brewers obviously not getting the national attention this season. They're sitting in a playoff pitcher doing what they do every single year. They're playing their best baseball right now, heading into the summer grind. And stop me if you heard this story before. The Brewers now sit at 33-29, primed to really just hang around just to make a difference. They did it so quietly last year. Are people shocked at this point? Like, the Brewers always find a way. They do nothing in the offseason. They make moves, quiet ones, and the Brewers are always in contention in some capacity. Maybe they won't get the World Series, they don't get all the glory and fame, but they're one of the more consistent franchises in the last 2 decades. They have to be.
Yeah, somehow they really are. And here's the thing, man. Like, it's going to come down to Christian Yelich. Like, he's been so good, especially these last 10 games or so. But we all know, we just talked about Mike Trout. We know the same thing with Yelich. Like, whether it's the back or something else, he has trouble playing a full season at this point in his career, and they lack power bats. So remember, Willy Adames left. He walked out the door after last season. So it's basically, as far as power goes, it's Yelich, it's Contreras sometimes, and after that, it's a bunch of guys that are just trying to get on base and be annoying on the base paths, have some speed, bat to ball, that kind of stuff, and play fundamental baseball, which is great. But you need some power. You need some pop if you're going to be a true competitor. Yelich in his last 10 games before tonight, 474, 6 home runs, 13 RBIs. Listen to this stat. This is an interesting one. So he had only hit 24 fly balls this season, which is the lowest of all qualified hitters. 24 fly balls. 13 of those have been home runs. Get the ball in the air more, Christian, and then we're talking here. And overall, I think of that 8-game win streak, getting them right back into the thick of things. A lot of it's due to just getting healthier. I mean, we talk about the pitching side. Aaron Savali, you mentioned. DL Hall back in the fold, contributing now. He's been gone for a while. Jose Quintana back. Wasn't out for too long, but he's back. So they're getting some guys back. We've talked a lot about how it just seems like they have to really dig down deep to get enough people to start these games because so many guys are on the IL. But I mean, they did it the way you think they would do it. Very low K percentage during that 8-game win streak as a team, 18.3%, which was the 5th lowest during those 8 games. Solid on base percentage, 345, which was 4th best during that win streak. So typical Brewers baseball.
Yeah, and we move on over here to some great history being made here with the electrifying Pete Crow Armstrong. And he became just the 4th fastest player in the modern era. And that, of course, that's since 1900 to tally 15 home runs and 20 stolen bases in a single season. And the Cubs center fielder reached that milestone in only 60 games. So Eric Davis did it in 40 games. Ken Williams did it in 54, and Bobby Bonds did it in 59. Of course, PCA is only 23 years old, and he achieved this feat younger than both Bo Jackson and Bonds, which is showing some poise and polish. And this is not just a flash of brilliance at this point. We talked about this. We did it in our take a pitch, swing away last week. Do we buy PCA as this franchise player? And he's the only player right now on pace for a 40-40 season in 2025. That might change. People will go on streaks, but top tier sprint speed. We knew about this in the minors, top 4% league wide. And we're seeing an increase in power, and he's a dynamic threat. There's no doubt about it. And he's one of those guys that I understand you watched him closely in the Mets system. You guys moved on from him. Did you expect this? I mean, you would read reports and watch at bats. There's no chance that you guys saw any of this. I don't think anyone could have predicted this.
No, I mean, when he was in the Mets system, the whole take was all glove, no bat. And like maybe the bat will develop a little more. Hell, let's listen back here, Steve. You and I interviewed a great episode, one of my favorites, Cole Wright, the Cubs pre-post game host. And we asked him about PCA, who it seems like he has a good relationship with. And we said, like, what does he need to do offensively to stay out there and get to play the field in an elite way, right? Because like he's got to contribute at least a little bit. And Cole's answer was like pretty much just like get the bat on the ball more, put it in play. Like they weren't asking what he's doing right now. What he's doing is completely unexpected. It's unbelievable what he's doing. To be honest, you think of the sprint speed you mentioned, the base paths, and how elite of a fielder he is. If he can hit like this, hell, if he could hit 90% of what he's doing right now in offense, you're talking about one of the best players in baseball, like literally top 4 or 5. Because a lot of the guys we think of as the best players in baseball can't do what he does in the field or on the base paths, or at least both. So you're talking about a guy who right now, 5-tool, doing absolutely everything. I am still holding out before I declare him what I just said, possible one of the best players in the game. I want to see a full season of it. I still think when you look at the advanced stats and some of the analytics, and even just watch him, you feel like there might be some holes there that guys are eventually going to expose. And obviously the numbers are going to be good at the end of the season, but will they be this MVP level good? That's what I'm waiting to see before I really get like overly excited. I'm not hating on the guy. I think there's a difference between a little bit of doubt and just straight up hating. I'm not saying he can't. I've made the mistake before about declaring someone something with too small of a sample size. And like the fact that no one saw this before, let's see if it keeps going.
No, it's more than fair. And I think everyone is as excited because he's 23, but they're also holding out the reservations because of the reckless abandon we're seeing of just what he's doing on the field. And the pace, as we're seeing, we're mentioning numbers, the history that he's making. It's hard to sustain this pace, especially when you don't have the track record at any level of baseball to do this. But he's doing it at the highest level. And I guess the real test would be the next 60 games if the pitchers do make the adjustment, because that's where the real test comes. We've seen every single elite hitter come up and down baseball. You name the player that took the league by storm. Eventually, the pitchers caught on to them. And I think the real test will be when he faces that adversity, how does he jump out of it? Because let's be honest, baseball is a game of adversity. He will hit a slump. He will not hit at this level. He's not going to do the video game stuff he's been doing. But with the raw athleticism, I think that's what's making everybody so excited, because you mentioned before, 90%, 80%, 70% of what we're getting from him makes him still a top 10 player in baseball, because he's well-rounded. He's dynamic. He's a spark plug. Like, this is the type of player you dream about if he can do what he's doing offensively. The real test is, can he do this over the course of 162 and repeat it for the next year while pitchers have the full playbook on him? He's 23 years old. So pitchers they're in the lab right now working out where is the weak spot in the zone for him where he's not going to be able to get the pitch. And right now he's making pitchers look silly. And that's, shout out to PCA, shout out to the Cubs coaching staff, like they're getting him in a spot to be successful. So this is exciting to see. And I think a player like this, and it depends on what the Cubs wind up doing. The Cubs, don't get me wrong, get a lot of national media attention throughout baseball. Everyone loves the Cubs. They're one of the sweethearts of baseball fans. Everyone has a soft spot for the Cubs, unless you're a White Sox fan out there, maybe a Central fan somewhere. But with the Cubs, if they have a run in October and maybe have this swan song and get to the World Series, and he has a standout, there's a chance that this dude could be the biggest face of baseball. Like that you have a shot at making that happen, because he has this electrifying nature, contagious nature to him, that if you give him on a spotlight and he breaks out and has an electrifying postseason, what he's doing here in a short spurt, let's just say he has the games that he's having now in October on the biggest stage of baseball. Yeah. You could be looking at the next face of baseball. And that might be an exaggeration right now, but can't you see it a little bit? Because this is what baseball's been waiting for. A player like this, coloring his hair, the way he plays the game. It's fun. Let the kids play. He's everything that they love about baseball. And like, they put the whole media machine behind him, especially wearing that Cubs uniform.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be out at the All-Star game. Who knows what kind of crazy stuff he'll do with his look or image on that red carpet that they do every year now or something. He's going to be fun to watch. I'm sure some people will hate it and some people will love it, but he's going to be entertaining to watch at the All-Star game. That's for sure. You can expect that. His Baseball Savant page is fascinating because knowing what he's doing this year, you expect to pull it up and just see red everywhere. And you don't. Like, he's hitting, his stat line is obviously great. 282, 15 home runs, 21 stolen bases, 884 OPS. And the batting run value is great. The base running run value is great. Fielding run value is great. And that's kind of tied with the stats. But you look elsewhere, hard hit percentage, 47th percentile. Bat speed, 47th percentile. He's in the middle of the pack in a lot of areas. Average exit velocity, 46th percentile. Squared up percentage, 37th. You got blue there. Chase percentage, first percentile, really, really, really bad. But so is Jacob Wilson, and that guy is an over 300 hitter everywhere he plays. Whiff percentage, 30th percentile. K percentage, 28th percentile. Walk percentage, he doesn't really do that either. So there's a lot of things Baseball Savant, which I think we all like, would tell you he doesn't do well. But then you see the stat line, and you're like, oh, he's putting up really great numbers. But I don't know. I feel like when you see that, there's got to be a way pitchers can expose him a little bit more.
Do you remember when you go back to school shopping and you'd buy the notebooks or the folders with like all the athletes that have the exact, I'm sure everyone could close their eyes and for the 90s kids, the pictures and like the font that is like 3D on it?
Yeah.
PCA reminds me of that player. Like, you go to the store, you're not a Cubs fan, you live in New York, you live somewhere else, but PCA be the player you bought. Just like we bought Ken Griffey Jr., you'd buy him. He has the colored hair, his helmet's flying off. He's the type of player you see on that 1998. You go to the store, going back to school shop, and you grab a folder of PCA on it. And tell me that's not the type of player you see right now.
No, I could see that. That makes complete sense.
So moving on over here with some injury news, we had Tyler Glasnow, and the shoulder is not responding as everybody would hope. The rotation took a hit, obviously, back in April when Tyler Glasnow exited to start early with some shoulder discomfort. And the outlook is no clearer right now since that point. It has not responded the way the team had hoped. We had Dave Roberts confirming that Glasnow threw a bullpen session and his body didn't bounce back the way he needed it. He said, quote, "It hasn't been linear. He wants to get back out and help, but his body hasn't responded. We know the growing list of injured Dodgers, whether it's Roki or Blake Snell. Shoulders are playing an issue here. And all three of these guys are playing catch in the rehabs. And you see that it's that the Dodgers playing it safe. We know that they're a team that is going to play the long game. We watched them do it last year. They had the expectations. They built that super rotation that we expected to be there. Yamamoto's healthy. He's producing at a high level. But there is a lot of these players that are rehabbing, injured, trying to get back to the spot. And with the trade deadline less than 2 months away at this point, the Dodgers may need to be asking some questions here. Like, are they going to rely on Glasnow to get healthy and be there at the end? Or are we actually going to have the Dodgers seeking starting pitching where they feel like they had an abundance of that coming into the season? It's wild to see how 2 months have changed the way we look at the Dodgers.
Yeah, well, as far as Glasnow, man, every time I read a note about him, I'm just starting to get like, is not going to play at all this year kind of vibes. Those are the kind of vibes I'm getting. I'm also a fantasy owner of his, and I've made it clear on this show before, I will never draft this dude again. Not ever. He's made 27 starts as a Dodger over the course of about a season and a half in Los Angeles. I've seen some people on Twitter calling like this is Andrew Friedman's biggest mistake as Dodgers, whatever he is, GM, president of baseball operations, whatever the title is now. And so people are starting to sour on this. I mean, remember, they gave up a very capable young starter in Ryan Pepio when they traded Pepio to Tampa. And hey, maybe Tampa Bay strikes again, where they just seem to get the better of the deal. I'm not saying Pepio is blowing the doors off of anybody like all-star level, but he's a very serviceable guy, and the Dodgers could use something like that right about now. And I mean, Glasnow, let's be honest, like, we knew his injury history before coming to LA. And LA has not had a good track record these last few years of keeping guys that throw hard healthy. I mean, we know how long Dustin May was out. Blake Snell is out immediately upon being a Dodger. Roki as well. Yamamoto spent time last year on the IL. So I think if they were not still in first place in the West, there'd be a bigger narrative out there about how the Dodgers, like, training staff, their system, how they bring up pitchers is not working. I mean, think about it. You say winning is the best deodorant. Definitely in this case, I can remember a time as a Met fan where every Mets fan knew the name of the New York Mets head trainer, Ray Ramirez. I still have it in my head because Mets were getting, for years, star players on the Mets were getting hurt year in, year out, soft tissue injuries. Jose Reyes, they literally tried to teach him how to run differently to try to avoid tearing his hamstring over and over again. Like, that's because they were losing when these guys went out. The Dodgers still find a way to win, but that pitching staff, man, like, the Mets are in LA right now playing a 4-game set. So before that 4-game set started, I looked at the pitching matchups and I came away with like, oh, like, I forgot, like, just really don't have that many guys out there. Like, yeah, Clayton Kershaw, but it's not the Clayton Kershaw that we're thinking here. So it's gonna, as the season goes on, if some of these guys don't get back, the narrative is going to change at least a little bit. Even if they're in first, it's going to start becoming like, all right, we've been saying for so long for the Dodgers, it's just important that they're there, right before the playoffs start. When does it become, hey, I don't think they're going to have this amazing rotation in the playoffs? And then the other side of it is, well, they'll probably go out and trade to re-up their rotation, similar to the way they did last year with Jack Flaherty, but maybe they'll do even more than that. I don't know. The Dodgers are a very interesting story, but Glasnow, I don't know. I'm getting those vibes. Don't be surprised, Steve, if in the next week or two, you get a notification that I dropped him. Like I'm on the edge of just needing one more notification. I'm also in IL hell right now. That's a separate topic where like I
Yeah.
can't field a full team, and it's very hard for me to like win against good teams in this league. And I might have to make a move like that if I'm getting the feeling that this dude is barely going to pitch this year. Why roster him at this point? But for the Dodgers, I don't think they need Glass now, Roki, and Blake Snell, but like they probably need one or two of them at some point.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just to talk about the IL thing, definitely in many leagues, I think it's an issue among many leagues. We're almost in a spot where, like the COVID season, we need an extra 2-3 spots for the
Nuts.
IL. I have players rostered on my team that I can't put on the IL, and they are on the IL legitimately. But for the Dodgers, dude, we watched it last year, and I feel like we get rockabide in the rocking chair into the same conversation over and over again. And this point last year, maybe we weren't having it quite yet. But when we had Mike DiGiovanna on the show, the Dodgers were in a bad spot because of the injuries, and they built
Yeah,
up this depth
true.
to withstand that. And until they lose in October, and I understand it is, I guess, a conversation of what if and hypotheticals, but they were this close to losing to the Padres last year, and they had the best shot to knock them out. And I think if they wound up beating them, and let's just say the Padres go on to win the World Series or don't, I think people would have a lot less confidence in what the Dodgers have done. They somehow weather the storm, and that the Padres will still be their kryptonite. They have to get past the San Diego Padres in some capacity, whether it's to win the NL West or in the playoffs some point. This beleaguered, injured Dodgers team will have to get past San Diego. And is San Diego going to have the reinforcements to exercise the demon that is the Los Angeles Dodgers that oversee them for the longest time? And I think that conversation we need to have. Are the Dodgers good enough to win the World Series? Conversation needs to start and end. Are the Dodgers good enough to beat the San Diego Padres in a 5-game set? And then we can go from there. And looking at right now, no, probably not. But we still have a long season to go. And I don't think it's just going to be reinforcements. This Dodger team showed last year that they overcame everything. The team had no business being where they were with everything they overcame. And they still went out there. They made a mockery of free agency. We know that. They spend the money. They put things on layaway. But this team is built to last because this front office wants to spend to win. And I think until proven otherwise, this Dodgers team will be just fine. And that is, no matter what they do, the Dodgers will be there. And the fact that they have that bugaboo of not just the shortened season World Series, now they got the last year World Series. Everything else is cake, icing on top of the cake, sprinkles, whatever you want to say. This team doesn't have the same pressure that it had at some point. So I think that plays a large part in this as well.
Yeah, they kind of got the monkey off their back last year. I could see that for sure. They just play a little looser.
Yeah, I think the Padres will definitely play a huge part in what we're talking about with the Dodgers, but I think heads would have rolled last year a little bit if the Padres wound up just winning that game. I think that we have a whole alternate universe where the world got splintered and we live in alternate dimensions, and there's a different world where people are out on the hook with the Dodgers, and it's a different world we live in if the Padres could have just pulled that off.
Yeah, well, one interesting thing that we're not talking that much about is the Tanner Scott stuff too. This dude's really struggling. Like we'd
Yeah.
mentioned, like Glass now, Dodger fans kind of souring on that acquisition. But Tanner Scott, I mean, I think some people are very quickly souring on him. I mean, they gave him a lot of money for 4 years, I believe. And if he's not going to be your closer for those 4 years, it's a lot of money to pay a dude that's pitching in the middle innings or being a lefty specialist. So just another note, it's not all rainbows and butterflies in LA, but they still sit at the top.
So what are the best stories in baseball right now? We predicted it last week. I mean, we're not Nostradamus by any means. I think everyone saw this coming. Jack Caglianone has finally arrived in Major League Baseball. The Royals finally called him up, and a lot of excitement and torching AAA. Just 54 plate appearances. He debuted Tuesday night, Busch Stadium, and designated hitter in the lineup tonight. And he settled in, which would probably be his primary big league home in right field. That seems like where he's going to be. And we have a lot of great stuff we talked about with Caglianone, and he's exciting and he provides just what the Royals need and its power. One of the things I did see, and I know we want to discuss really what he means to this lineup, but I saw this podcast, David Sampson, former Marlins president, came out and he called this move, quote, the most irresponsible move of the season. Your thoughts on this? Because among all of this, the excitement, everyone wants to see this player. He torched AAA. He doesn't belong in AAA anymore. This misguided critique comes out. And is it just a guy just trying to get clicks, or is this someone who truly believes this? Is there a source to this that actually holds value? Because I can't find it.
Well, I think it's a mix. I mean, I'm sure having the podcast that he has, putting it out there and trying to get some clicks is not the worst thing in the world for him. But you got to remember what he's coming from. He's coming from a front office kind of background. And for the longest time, we've talked about how it's not as big a problem now because there's some incentives to bring these guys up earlier. But for the longest time, everyone did this where they would hold a guy down until a certain date to try to get another year out of them. And his point, I believe, was something like June 17th or something around there. If they had waited until then, so let's say 2 to 3 weeks from now, they have a whole nother year of control for Jack, which, I mean, there's a little bit of a discussion there. All right, is calling him up 2.5 weeks early worth foregoing a full year of control for a potential superstar? So to be honest, like, I don't love his point because I don't think it's good for baseball to hold these guys down. But if you're a front office guy, I kind of understand it. Like you're legitimately trading 2.5 weeks for a year. And I think there's something to be said for that. I know it's not popular and I know we hate when people do it, but I think there's an argument.
Yeah, and I think also got to consider the source. And I know he's on a podcast. He deserves to have his voice out there. But he did play a central role in the collapse and the relocation of the Montreal Expos. He was also named in that RICO lawsuit by the former Expos minority owners, and he did oversee the Marlins taxpayer-funded stadium deal that was a public relations nightmare involved in a franchise that was not great. So I believe if he believes this is a bad idea, this might be the best evidence that it's a good idea. And I agree with what you're saying. There is some truth to that, but it goes against everything we've been barking against for how long, asking these guys to just let the kids play. He didn't just hold his own in the minors. This guy dominated. It's not like he was like, oh, maybe we want him up there for no reason. This guy didn't belong in AAA. He just absolutely torched all pitching. He belongs in Major League Baseball. And I don't care if it's 2 weeks early, 3 weeks early, 1 week early. Just get this guy up here for a team, let's be honest, that is competitive. Like, this is a team that puts a lot of emphasis right now on what they're building on last year. Everyone wants to throw the sexy pick on the Tigers. We did the same thing, but the Royals overachieved last year too. They have a superstar, one in a lifetime type of player, Bobby Witt Jr. Bring him out there. I saw someone comparing him to Joey Gallo, and it bothered me so much because you look at Gallo's K rate, obviously long hovered over 38%, historically bad. Someone also compared him to O'Neal Cruz, and I believe that's lazy too. He does not swing and miss like those guys. I don't think people are looking at the stats as closely as you should be. Caglianone is projected to be a completely different player. He might be one of the best bats in a Royals lineup right now. That is Bobby Witt Jr. and then everybody else at this point. So they're looking for power. It's not a desperation move. It's data backed. You look at the offense right now, ranked last in MLB in home runs, fourth worst in WRC plus, and near the bottom in power. So like Bobby Witt came out and said during the pregame of yesterday, he said, quote, just the presence of him in the box, I think it's going to help everyone. That's your team leader. So I think Jack Caglianone is going to have a huge difference, not just offensively, but just the morale in that dugout and that locker room. That this dude coming in here, there's some emphasis on winning in Kansas City. That's what we want in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense why they called the dude up. As far as timing, you can argue that, but like he gives them exactly what they need if he can play well up here. The comparison I saw on MLB Network, which I actually liked in the context they put it, was there's something about him that there's some profile that looks a little bit like Adam Dunn. Now, before you say, oh, he'll be way better than Adam Dunn hit a hell of a lot of homers, 40 home run hitter, many, many years. They went on to say the difference between the two of them is they do a lot of things similar power, but Jack is way more under control, whereas Adam Dunn was trying to hit every ball as hard as he could. That's pretty enticing. A dude that has the power of Adam Dunn but can swing more under control, I'll take that. So you're right. There you don't want some of those lazy comparisons and just thinking about big guys who strike out a lot. That might not be who we're looking at here. 0 for 5 tonight so far in his debut. Watched his first 2 at bats. He got robbed twice, especially on his first one. He had a hard shot pretty deep, and Victor Scott, maybe one of the only dudes fast enough to go get this ball. Second time was robbed, I think, in the infield from third base. Arenado, so another great defensive player, taking a base hit away. I know his first 3 at-bats, he hit the ball 95 miles per hour or more exit velocity. So the guy's hitting the ball hard, has not struck out, has put the ball in play all 5 times. So it's an 0 for 5, but it's an encouraging 0 for 5, I believe. And he's hitting, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th in the lineup. DHing. I wonder if he gets some outfield activity at some point, or if they mix him in at first. It'll be interesting to watch that. But, we're all rooting for Jack. And I, as a guy who picked the Royals in that division, they've got some work to do. And I want to see this thing work out.
Yeah, I think the outdated philosophy of slow cooking all these prospects that we've seen in the past, that's not where modern baseball is at. And I'm glad the Kansas City Royals are looking at this, reacting to the numbers in real time. And everything has told us that he is the real deal, ready to be there. And I think expectations, obviously, we don't expect him to be a superstar upon arrival. You mentioned the hard hit balls, but I think professional at bats and a chance to grow into this middle of the order force is what they need. They need to have him out there. You're not going to grow just dominating AAA pitching. You need to face professional pitching up there. And if he struggles, fine. That's fine. Trout struggled early. Judge struggled early. You're not going to improve by just continually hitting these guys in AAA and dominating them. You get better by facing MLB arms and adjusting in real time and being around the big league club. And I think there's a lot to be excited about him. He's not a lock to be a superstar by any means, but I think if some of what we're saying about some of these other players, if he's half of what we're seeing projected, this could be a player that changes not just the trajectory of the next couple of weeks. This could change the trajectory of the Royals season, because you look at that offensive struggles. This is just what the doctor ordered. If he's 70% of what we're projecting.
Yeah, I mean that the potential of that duo, Bobby Witt Jr. and Jack Caglianone, for years to come is so fun to think about if it all works out the way we hope it does.
And he's just a year removed from college ball. And this is another conversation we continue to have about shortening the pipeline and increasing recognition of watching things at the NCAA tournament and seeing these players play in real time, and they can help your franchises sooner than later, instead of slow roasting these players 6-7 years in the minors somewhere, and then you don't even know their names. So I think it's good for baseball. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no, it's good when MLB Network is literally doing a live cut in to every one of his at-bats. Like, that's what they were doing tonight. So this guy, there's excitement behind him. So
we're going to head to the sub-2 ERA crew. We had someone falling out, but we do have some returns. All right, we're going to hit that beautiful rock music here. Devin, lead us through the sub-2 ERA crew.
Well, at the top, man, this guy just refuses to leave the crew, and now he's leading the crew. Chris Bubich, another gem the other night. He actually brought his ERA down to 1.43. Talk about guys that are playing well for the Royals. I mean, there's one. Nathan Eovaldi comes in next. His ERA also went down to 1.56. Unfortunately, IL'd this week. It looked like they thought he'd be okay to make his next start after an abbreviated 2-inning outing last week, but they IL'd him. They don't think it's super serious. Hopefully we see him back, keeping his name qualified with the innings that he needs to be in our sub-2 ERA crew. Kodai Senga leading the National League. His ERA actually went up to 1.60, but still good enough for us. Hunter Brown brings the ERA down and returns after 1 week out of the sub-2 ERA crew, 1.83. Max Fried, his ERA went up pretty significantly, 1.92. That just shows you how well he had pitched before that. He stays in the crew, though. And then Garrett Crochet also returns 1.98. 2 people fell off, one of them just being tonight. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 2.39. Tyler Mahle, he falls out tonight. He's at 2.02, so maybe he can get back in there next week.
So that's the under 2 ERA crew over here. And as Devin mentioned, we'll keep you guys updated on those very elite class. And a lot of that is just the example of pitching. These guys have been consistent. Some names are surprising us, but it's cool to see these names and track them from week to week. But let's head to our next conversation. We were going to open the show with it, but it's been jam-packed. We're going to talk about the NCAA Super Regionals and what's been happening around college baseball. All right, so covering this tournament here, we whittled the field down to 16. The stage is now set for the Super Regionals, 8 best-of-3 series that will decide who punches their ticket to Omaha for the 2025 College World Series. So there's some changing in the guard. We mentioned last week the mighty SEC sent a record 13 teams into the tournament, but only 4 survived the regional round. We had the shocking stumble for a conference that's won 5 straight national titles and appeared in 14 of the last 15 College World Series finals. So goner seeds like Vanderbilt in Texas, who were victim of a weekend that really upended a lot of people's expectations. The ACC, is thriving. 5 teams advancing, tying their own record from last year. And they potentially could send 4 teams to Omaha. North Carolina, Florida State, Duke, and Louisville and Miami all made it through, with Miami and Louisville meeting in an all ACC super. So some matchups to watch this weekend. We have Miami and Louisville, number 9 Florida State versus number 8 Oregon State or Arizona at number 5 North Carolina, number 13 Coastal Carolina at number 4 Auburn. This is Friday through Sunday, and then Saturday through Monday, UTSA at number 15 UCLA, Murray State at Duke, West Virginia at LSU, and number 14 Tennessee at number 3 Arkansas. So your thoughts on that opening weekend? I think all eyes are on Vanderbilt losing, Texas, big losses. Exciting, honestly, more exciting than March Madness, for being honest.
Way more exciting. Upsets like all over the place, right out the gate too. I mean, we saw Oregon have a surprising loss right out there. They don't make it to the Super Regionals. You mentioned number 1 Vandy, number 2 Texas, both failed to make the Super Regionals. Just crazy stuff. Teams like Murray State, UTSA, those are your Cinderellas. March Madness, no. The madness is now. I saw our friend Ben Upton from 11.7, does a great job, obviously, covering college baseball, call this the best beginning to the tournament that he has ever seen. Most entertaining, just upsets all over the place. These games also, a lot of these games, man, they get intense. These teams go at each other. College baseball is a different environment, man. Like, people are showing each other up. There's tons of chirping. I'll be honest, even when I went to the Campbell-Stony Brook game, which was not a big setting at all, the first thing my dad and I noticed at the game was like, these guys don't shut up. Like, they really razz each other. And like, if I was in the opposing dugout, I'd be really annoyed. Like, there's a lot of showmanship there. And people get under each other's skin. It gets a little dicey there. And I love it. It's great entertainment to watch. I mean, I watched the Tennessee Wake Forest game closely. There's been a lot of reports about that, and obviously some words being caught on camera that shouldn't be said. And it gets nasty. It really does. But yeah, I think the stories are mainly the upsets. And going forward, it's pretty damn unpredictable. I would sit here and say I really like Tennessee's chances after watching that team, and a really good roster. Obviously, great coach there. But they're matching up right out the gate out of Arkansas in the Super Regionals. That's no cupcake. I don't know which way that goes. To be honest, the team that if this is gut, I'm not going to sit here and get into numbers and act like I have a ton of super specific reasoning for it. It's just from watching what I watched over the weekend, looking at the roster and looking at the matchups that are upcoming. I like LSU's chances right now. For some reason, they're the team that sticks out to me. There's a few others, obviously, that I feel pretty good about. But if I had to pick one, there's something about LSU and the position they're in. And I know they just barely squeaked by Little Rock, which, almost was another enormous upset. There's something I like about LSU, and obviously we can come back here next week and look back at that and clip it and see if I look like a genius or if I look like an idiot. But it's been fun. I'll just say that, and I can't wait for the weekend to watch some more.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and if you guys are not watching, you should tune in now. Arkansas is the highest remaining national seed. They're hosting Tennessee, who is last year's champion, if you guys did not watch last year, who is back for the 5th straight Super Regional, and they had a rocky season. They started 20-0, and they wound up going 26-17 down the stretch, and they somehow figured it out. Some of the things I want to look at, too, is the draft watch, too, because the Super Regionals are also serving as a spotlight for 3 of the top MLB draft prospects we're going to be looking at, knowing their names. Liam Doyle of Tennessee. He was NCAA leading 158 strikeouts. Cade Anderson of LSU. He came off a 7-inning shutout, which was fantastic. And Jamie Arnold, of course, of Florida State. We mentioned his name before. He struck out 13 versus Mississippi State. Lights out. And I mean, I feel like we could spend a long time talking about all these different teams, the Cinderellas, you mentioned Murray State, UTSA, the Roadrunners. You look at the stats there. They're dancing in their first ever super regional after sweeping Texas. They had a 6-26 lifetime matchup against Texas, and they went in there and swept them. So they're going to take on UCLA with momentum on their side at this point. And Coastal Carolina, man, we talked about them last week. They were winners of 21 straight, and they're making their first super regional appearance since winning it all back in 2016. Kevin Shaw over there is their head coach, and they're the most dominant team in the country right now. So it's kind of up in the air for everybody. And home field advantage does matter. Since 1999, teams hosting a super regional have won nearly 70% of the time, which is 137, 197 series. Hostile crowds in college baseball. You mentioned the chirping of the players, but the fans are just as passionate, familiar dimensions, and reduced travel. I think it's not a small edge. And you look at teams like Arkansas, Auburn, and UCLA, they might have the edge going into these matchups.
And one other thing I just want to say that I loved hearing this weekend, the UTSA coach, after advancing, had some kind of a quote where he basically, they asked him about all the guys that had transferred, had left from last year, some of their bigger players. And we talk about NIL money a lot and the transfer portal and how these guys just jump to different places for the most money and how it's a little out of control. It was refreshing to see a team like UTSA make it and beat some of these big time money programs like a Texas. And he basically said, if those guys who transferred were still here, we wouldn't be advancing right now. He just completely annihilated these dudes that left the program last year to take money and said if it wasn't for them leaving, we wouldn't be here. He basically credited them leaving with them getting this far. To me, it was amazing. An amazing just to hear a coach be that honest. I loved it.
Absolutely love it. And again, you guys should be tuning in to watching this. The College World Series will begin on June 13th in Omaha, Nebraska. The favorites have fallen, and we got some new contenders. And it's good for baseball because you have these other programs getting funding. This is a huge spotlight for them. We didn't even talk a lot about West Virginia. They had lost 9 of their previous 13, and they somehow got some rhythm, and they earned a regional rematch with LSU. So they beat Kentucky. There's a lot of fun storylines happening. And if you're not into, like, you don't have your team, watch some of these prospects, man. Because I think these guys we mentioned before, we just talked about Caglianone. He was a year removed from playing in college, and now he's playing big league ball. And we've seen it time and time again. So we're going to head into our Twitter polls and conversations, or I should say take a pitch or swing away, because we don't have any Twitter polls, Devin. All right, Devin. So we have 3 take a pitch or swing away. We are approaching an hour and a half, and we do have some mailbag. Do you want to cut down, take a pitch, swing away, and save one, or do you want to go all 3 balls to the wall?
Let's try to do it rapid fire because, like you said, we are going a little long here. We still have red hot, ice cold, and mailbag. So, like, we gotta, let's do rapid fire here. We'll each give a short response.
All right. So let's go with number 1. Kyle Riley can win the home run total over Ohtani and Judge. I'll let you go first with your rapid answer.
I'm gonna take the pitch here. I love what Cal's doing. He's emerging as the best catcher in baseball. Has the potential to break records from that position. I just think Ohtani and Judge, when it's all said and done, as cool as it would be, I have to take the pitch here.
I'm taking the pitch as well. I think a big piece of this, of course, he's currently tied for MLB lead with 23 home runs. And I think he is achieving this as a catcher, which is not associated with leading in home runs, wear and tear. He's on pace for 57 home runs over a full season, which would set a new record for primary catcher. So that's a big deal in its own right. Salvador Perez, if you're not familiar, 48 2021. I think Ohtani and Judge will be able to outlast him because of the positions that they play. Maybe Raleigh will have some time DHing, but he's a catcher, wear and tear, some knees issues. I don't think he can keep the pace up, but it's been remarkable so far.
Yeah, unbelievable. Shout out to him.
So we're going to go with the next question here. The Braves need a new voice. So I'm going to go first here, and I'm going to be swinging away, and I think they're getting the new voice here. The Atlanta Braves made some coaching changes recently. They brought in former manager Freddie Gonzalez as the third base coach, and I don't think that is an accident. I think there's a desire to inject some new energy and experience into the coaching staff with a familiar voice that they may enjoy having in the room. Brian Snitker, obviously his future beyond this season remains uncertain, and I think he remains non-committal about extending his tenure either, so it's not like it's just the Braves are uncertain about what's going on. I feel like he's uncertain about where he stands here. We saw all the drama happen with the Acuna thing. I think these developments indicate the organization is evaluating its leadership, and the writing's on the wall. I think a new voice needs to be in that dugout.
Yeah, I'm going to swing away as well. Snicker has had a couple bad moments this year, like really bad. Um, just like looking oblivious a little bit when the whole Kalenic thing happened where he didn't hustle and got thrown out at second. His post-game press conference, he said he didn't see it.
Yeah.
You're the manager, dude. You didn't see it. And then this past week, more on top of that, really bizarre. Smith Shawver was out there pitching, kind of clearly in elbow discomfort, and he's just staring right out there watching him. He and an assistant coach too, by the way, were just watching the whole thing. Spencer Strider had to come over to them and let them know, like, hey guys, I think something's up with AJ out there. I don't think he's right. How the hell does that happen? That really caught my eye. And that on top of the Kalenic stuff, something just seems off. So and I also think everyone expected the Braves by now to go on a little bit of a streak and make some headway. And they just can't seem to get anything rolling, win after win after win, which is surprising. I know they haven't been fully healthy for that long as far as Acuna and Strider being back, but it's just there seems to be some kind of disconnect. So I do think it's just about time for a different voice there.
So our third and final, take a pitch, swing away. If Corbin Burns is done for 2025, so are the Diamondbacks. I'll pass it to you first.
I'm going to swing away. They've dug themselves a little bit of a hole. There's some very, very good individual performances. Obviously, Corbin Carroll is tearing it up. Perdomo has looked fantastic as well. Not all hope is lost, but not that Corbin Burns was out there pitching Cy Young level, but I just think they need him. Zach Gallen hasn't been himself either in a contract year. So, yeah, I think in that very difficult division, if you don't have those guys either out there or pitching to their best, you're in trouble. It's too competitive. So I'll swing away with the caveat. So far, they're just calling it elbow inflammation. Maybe there's more to come. We see these things sometimes. I mean, hell, Yordan Alvarez was just about to come back from his hand inflammation, and suddenly they discovered a fracture. So maybe they need to wait for the inflammation to come down and see what's really going. I don't know. Some strange things happen with these injuries.
I'm swinging away as well. I think, as you mentioned, we have not seen his true form yet, but being that he has a track record of being a true ace, you can expect that he'd be there to anchor the rotation. Being on the 15-day IL is already enough. The right elbow inflammation, as you mentioned, he's getting a second opinion. The absence is a significant blow no matter you slice it, but if he's out for the year, there's a huge blow. Already struggling. If you look at them now, following Pacoda, 27.9% chance of making the playoffs, and losing him for an extended period of time does put a huge diminishing hope for their postseason contention. And we know that the extra spot adds some stuff here, but feels like a snake bitten year for them. Not to use a pun here, but the Diamondbacks. But I think his health is pivotal to the team's success this year, and I'm swinging away on this 100% if he's out for the year.
I'm with you. We're in lockstep on these three today.
Wow, here we go. So let's get into our mailbag here. Some great questions from our loyal followers on the X Machine. So a little bit of a fun one here from Dugout Dispatch. Shout out to him. Great content over there at Dugout Dispatch. Make sure you guys check it out. I believe it. Get the Twitter follow right over here at Hucky Corp, right? That's correct?
Yep, that's it.
So the question from Dugout Dispatch was, what would a New York super team look like? Only active players, all position players, and DH, 5 starters, 1 closer. So I put my starting lineup together here. I'm sure you did as well. This could go on for an hour and have this conversation, but I think what we should do a little fun if Dugout Dispatch does not mind. Maybe do a little bit of a draft. We'll start with maybe you who's batting first, and we have to make this work and cross them off, or do you want to go with who you had in your lineup? Am I throwing too much of a curveball your way?
This is tricky. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a curveball. I just went through the positions and then I made a batting order, and obviously I picked the 5 starters. I like the draft idea, but I feel like I need to be prepared. Maybe we'll do that. Can we do that with something else a different night?
For sure. Yeah. Go with your starting lineup first over here. Yeah.
All right. I feel like I need to strategize a little bit. All right. So I'm leading off with Francisco Lindor at shortstop. I'm going to have Juan Soto in the DH spot, batting number 2. Aaron Judge is going to go out there and play right field, hitting 3. So you reunite Soto, Judge back to back. We know how that looks. Pete Alonso is going to play first and clean up, try to protect Judgy there. This one, it gets a little trickier once we get to these spots as far as order and also a few of the positions. Left field, I'm going to put Cody Bellinger out there. I'm going to have him bat 5. So you got the lefty behind the two righties there. Second base, this is tricky. This was tough. I'm going to go with who I think the most talented player is, not necessarily who has played the best this year, and that's Jazz Chisholm. I think it brings the most potential to second base. So I have him there batting 6. This is going to be the controversial one. I don't have Francisco Alvarez catching. I don't have Austin Wells catching. Luis Torrens is going to be my catcher. He can hit a little bit, and he plays better defense than either of those guys. Can throw guys out, can frame. Give me the defense and the just capable hitter, reliable guy in the catching spot. The only reason I'm putting him 7 is to kind of break up lefty-righty kind of stuff. Brett Beatty is going to play 3rd for me. Mark Vientos now on the shelf with a hamstring injury. Didn't look good. Love the Ronnie Mauricio call-up, and I was tempted to put him here right out the gate, but let's see how he does for a few weeks before I crown him there. Third base, a little bit of a weak spot for both teams, let's be honest. And then center field, I'm going to put Trent Grisham, who obviously has been crazy this season. Also a pretty good defender out there, so he'll be my center fielder. Shout out, I love Tyrone Taylor, great defender. How can I deny Trent Grisham and what he's done? Before I go to pitching, give me your lineup, and let's see how similar it looks.
It's pretty damn similar, actually. I do have Nimmo leading off. I love his on-base skills. I like the presence, and I have him starting in left field. Right field, I have Juan Soto. I think it's a no-brainer being in the second spot over there. Bat to ball genius. We love what he did at number 2, batting in front of Aaron Judge, and he's my number 3rd hitter. Center field, most dangerous hitter in New York. I think patrolling center field is where he belongs. I have Pete Alonso also as my cleanup hitter. I think he's the best power bat option at first. He's more productive than Goldschmidt by a mile in 2025. And for Cody Bellinger, I have him at DH at the 5th spot, similar to you. I think he protects Alonso in the order. I have Lindor at 6. I kind of want him in the leadoff spot, but I do like him being there for doing a super team. There should be no gaps in here. Leadership from Lindor. He is a switch hit threat. Obviously, the elite defense. Second base, I have Jazz as well. He just came back today, so he adds to the active players. No brainer to have him in there. You mentioned him not being in the lineup, but hit a home run tonight. This is a guy who's electrifying. Third base is a black hole. You mentioned I wound up putting DJ LeMahieu in there because there's no standout there. I think he's serviceable experience. He'll have moments. We've seen it in spurts. And I do have Alvarez being the catcher here. I wanted so badly to get Ben Rice into the lineup somehow. I was going to sneak him in at 3rd. He has no major league experience there. I could have put him at catcher. I don't think that you can go out your team there. I wanted to get so badly Ben Rice in there, but I could not put him in there over Pete Alonso, over Cody Bellinger. But yeah, that's my lineup over here. I only picked one starting pitcher because I thought we were going through just the one I misread.
Okay.
But
okay, well, I'll give you mine, and you can tell me if there's any they disagree with. The only thing that surprised me there on yours, I mean, Lindor in the 6th spot seems like a little bit of a waste. But I get it. It's a super team, so you're going to have those situations. The other thing, I'm surprised you picked Alvarez over Wells. Alvarez, man, and this is a whole different thing. I'm not going to get into it, but he's been so completely unimpressive to me this year. I just feel like the last 2 years he's regressed. Still have hope. He's so young still. But I'm watching him. There's just something missing. I know he had a big hit last night in extra innings, but that's all that surprises me. But similar. We had a couple differences, but pretty similar. If we go to the pitchers, I'll go 1 through 5 here. I'm going to have my ace. Really 1 and 1A, to be honest. Max Fried can get game 1. Kodai Senga is going to come in right after him as the 2nd spot. You can flip-flop those guys. It's pretty clear this year. But Fried has a little more experience, so I'll give him the ace mark there. Carlos Rodon, who's been, let's be honest, great this year, and that's been huge for the Yankees, is going to get my 3 spot in the rotation. And then I'm going to close it out with Clay Holmes and David Peterson at 4 and 5. Those guys are going to come in there at the end of the rotation. I mean, Peterson doesn't get a lot of love. This dude, since he came back from hip surgery last year, has just been a completely different guy. An under 3 ERA consistently for a long time now. If you're sleeping on him, go check out his stuff. Clay Holmes, I mean, it's still early in the starting pitching experiment, but you got to like what you see so far, and you think it would only get better. And then I'm going to close it out with Edwin Diaz.
I agree with all that. I have Edwin Diaz as my closer as well, because Luke Weaver went down with an injury today. We are using the parameters of active players, so I probably would put Luke Weaver in that spot if he was healthy and going. But Thus is the rules over here from Dugout Dispatch. So I have Diaz as my closer, and I love the pitching staff. I think the only Yankees that belong in there, especially if they're healthy, Fried and Rodon have been remarkable this year, and the rest have been kind of patched together. And I think if we go to war with this team, I think we're getting over 100 wins. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's just crazy that you can't feel confident at third base when you have two teams working together. You still feel a little bit iffy there. But the only thing I'll say about Diaz over even Weaver, if Weaver is healthy, Diaz, I know he makes things very interesting, but the last few weeks, man, he has looked a lot more like 2022 Diaz, who is one of the best closers ever. If you just take an individual year,
Sure.
I know he was shaky against the Dodgers last night, obviously, but before that, man, he was starting to look like that old version of Diaz, which excites me as a Met fan for sure.
Yeah, the velocity's back. He's striking out batters. He just looks poised. And, the
Yeah.
injury thing, maybe it took a little bit for him to get back from the WBC injury, but he looks like he's fully realized and not the pressure we had. Because people forget, I mean, he got off to, you want to talk about Lindor's start in New York or Soto's start? Think about Diaz's start in New York and how much he had to overcome to win those fans over and eventually just be a part of the franchise in a big role. So, I mean, I don't have to tell you that.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I've seen it firsthand for sure.
So Ben Weaver also hopped in the mailbag and asked us our biggest surprise and disappointment of the Major League Baseball season. So we could have went multiple ways. I went the traditional way myself with just the teams. I mean, we could have went other avenues because as I was thinking about this question, I'm like, we could be kind of creative with this.
Yeah, I went player and I mixed one team in there. I'm going to keep it pretty short here. Biggest surprise, we already talked about him, so I'm not going to dive into it. It's Pete Crow Armstrong. I don't think anyone saw this coming, man. It's Pete Crow Armstrong to me. Biggest surprise. And then disappointment, I have a player and a team. Listen, this is one of my guys, and he actually just a few minutes ago hit a 2-run home run against Clayton Kershaw to drop the Dodgers lead to 1. So maybe he's coming out of it. 5th straight game with an extra base hit. Looks like he's getting more into his legs. But how can you not say Juan Soto has been the biggest disappointment so far? I know a lot of people are pointing to him getting unlucky if you look at the advanced stuff, but just hasn't looked right so far. I still have a lot of hope that it's going to. So he's my disappointing player, but I also had to put the Orioles in there as far as disappointing teams. I almost put the Rockies, not that I expected them to be good, but just for baseball, it's super disappointing. I know they finally won 2 straight today against the Marlins, which can't feel good for Marlins fans. But yeah, PCA for biggest surprise, Soto and the Orioles for the biggest disappointment.
I put my biggest surprise the Detroit Tigers. We talked all about them, and I understand that they came in with expectations, but I don't think they expected them to be as good as they are this year at this point. And I think this team has been the biggest surprise to me. Like to be dominant at their level,
Yeah.
maybe it is a barometer of the American League at large. For them to be sitting at the first team to 40 wins is a team that has been, they're right now they're establishing the blueprint of how developmental and belief can really flip a franchise overnight, it seems. So they're my biggest surprise. My disappointment, Baltimore Orioles. I mean, it's hard to overstate how far they have fallen at this point. Just 2 seasons removed from that 101 win campaign, sitting last in the AL East. And I don't even know what else to say. Their playoff odds right now have them at just 1.6% according to Fangraphs right now, which is wild. Buster Olney did say something. He said the team looks like it's heading for a 100-loss season and heading back to a rebuild that they thought they left behind, which I thought that was rough words. But if you start looking at it, it's like that's kind of true. And it's so sad to see where they're falling. I also mentioned the Rockies as an honorable mention as far as whether it's a surprise or disappointment. You can pick your poison on that one. They transcended from just bad to historic disaster. Their run differential is historically bad, and they're on pace to break the record that the White Sox had the honor of last year. And I also think the Diamondbacks right now are a little bit of a disappointment as well. They're a little bit torching their playoff hopes, and it starts with the bullpen too. So
Bad.
They're neutralizing a lot of the hope that we saw from them and their offense, which is explosive. And there's a lot of good stories in baseball, but there's some, you start lifting up the hood of the car, there's some things smoking under there you got to get fixed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We try to accentuate the positives here, but baseball is a game where you got to talk about both sides. So, and we're going to give a little more love to some people that are hot and some people that are struggling as well before we wrap things up.
All right, let's head into our red hot ice cold segment over here.
Oh, hot. Oh, that's cold.
All right. Hopefully YouTube doesn't clip that one and hold us accountable for it. But we love that clip over here. Matt, if you're listening, we need your help with some of these drops over here to help us get
Help us out, Matt. Save us.
save us. We'll give you some of the audios and make it look beautiful like you do in the Extra Cooler show. Shout out to Matt. We love you, brother. Red hot, ice cold. Obviously, each of us will pick a player or team from each category. I'll start with my hot player. I'm going to start with Jeremy Pena. Over his last 23 at bats, he's slashing an absurd 435, 480, 870, 3 home runs, 6 runs scored, 5 RBIs, 4 stolen bases. And I picked him up in fantasy. So I've been watching quite closely. 0 strikeouts, and that's in the span of a week here. 10 hits. And I think right now the OPS too, 1.350, nuclear right now. So I think looking at the catalyst for him at the top of the order, it's been fun to watch. Jeremy Pena has moments. We've seen it in the postseason, most notably, but to see him doing it during this part of the season, pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he's putting the season together. It's nice to see after kind of a year or two in anonymity almost, after breaking onto the scene in that playoff year. Red hot for me, Junior Caminero. I mean, this guy is right before our eyes becoming the next star for the Tampa Bay Rays. Since May 27th, 13 RBIs. 13 RBIs since May 27th. Jeez. 4 home runs in that time as well. 7 runs scored. 30% barrel rate. So I'll take that barrel rate 30% of the time. Yeah. How about that? And let's look at tonight. Oh, no. All right. Another home run for him tonight. So he kept it going tonight. This guy's on fire. I'll give you a picture really quickly, too. How about a name we wouldn't expect to be in this segment? Bailey Falter. I mean, we know Paul Skeens is great. We know some of the pitchers for Pittsburgh are, don't get any run support, but they're doing their job. Over the last month, Bailey Falter 0.76 ERA in 6 starts. That's second best. I think only Scooble's above him. 0.84 whip. That's third best. Batters are only hitting 155 against him in that time. 4 quality starts in 6 games. We'll take it from a guy that's supposed to be back end of the rotation. Only giving up 1 homer in those 6 starts. So shout out Bailey Falter. He's putting a great season together.
I want to put some love on a pitcher as well. Ryan Yarbrough obviously was the savior the Yankees needed. Most impressive performance of the season, silencing the Dodgers lineup. 6 innings pitched, 1 run ball, 17 whiffs, which he was outdueling Yamamoto, which was impressive on there. And obviously in a big stage in the Bronx. And the Yankees needed so much of him. But if you look at over the last 17 innings from him, he allowed just 2 earned runs, struck out 9, walked only 1, and his ERA is at 1.59. And the whip, too, 0.59 as well in that stretch, and the command, and he's neutralizing the elite lineup. And I was impressed what we saw. And he's gone from the depth piece that we thought he would be, and he had to step up in a big role, and he's done just that, especially for the Yankees in a big spot where they needed him so badly. So shout out to Yarbrough on what he brought to the table.
I was very interested to see some of those type of guys step up in that series, Dodgers-Yankees, and the Stars, Fried and Yamamoto, really struggled in their starts, but that's baseball.
So looking at ice cold, I did allude to it before. Jaron Duran has hit a rough patch in his last 29 at bats. He's batting just 172, no extra base hits, no RBIs, no walks. He struck out 8 times. The slash line right now kind of reflects just a complete lack of impact at the plate. No stolen bases because he's not getting on base. And from a fantasy perspective, this is a dude who everyone expects a lot, filling up the scorecard. This cold stretch is something I've been watching, and this is a dude who relies on speed and spark for the Red Sox in real life and fantasy, and he's not doing any of that right now.
Yeah, and they need him very, very badly. My ice cold as far as the batting side of things, Connor Norby, the Marlins, he's had a hard time recently, and the Marlins have really started to struggle a little bit here, dropping 2 against the lowly Rockies. I believe they had a crowd of 5,000 watching Rockies Marlins in Miami. Rough to see that stadium barely full, barely have anybody there. Norby's 1 for his last 23. That's before tonight, so I do not have that updated for tonight. 0 walks, so he hasn't even been able to get on base with the walk. 37.5% K rate, minus 61 WRC plus. It's hasn't been good, and unfortunately, the pitching side of things, it's a Marlin as well. Max Meyer, who we maybe a month or a month and a half ago designated a segment to, actually, and I think we actually put it up as a clip. of singing his praises and saying like he's bursting onto the scene. We're finally getting the Max Meyer who we heard about as that high prospect for all those years. Well, batters look like they figured him out. Some people are attributing it to the fact that he doesn't have a great fastball and that they're realizing that and preying on it. Over the last month, 6.46 ERA in 6 starts. Batters are hitting 316 off of him, 1.66 whip, which is one of the worst in the league for that time period, giving up 2.35 home runs per 9. So it's been a rough 6 starts for Max Meyer.
So I also want to put some cold on Luis Severino over his last 11 and 2/3. He's been hit pretty hard, 6.94 ERA. The whip is a little bit up there. He's hasn't allowed the home runs, but the hitters are barreling him up, which is sort of scary for Severino. The strikeout stuff does not appear to be on the same level it was this time last year. He's struggling to miss bats and he's not controlling the zone. So I watched his start the other night and just looked like he wasn't feeling it. So he is ice cold right now. I think Severino has shown us, I mean, he's the highest paid free agent in athletics history. He has to turn this around and figure it out. But Severino is definitely one of the guys that is a little bit chilled on right now.
Yeah, I mean, it just already looks like some of those guys are tired of playing in that stadium. I think didn't Kotze get ejected like a week ago and he gets ejected and has to walk all the way out to center field or something? It's rough, man, and they're expected to be there for a few years. Like, I wonder the toll, like mentally and also the mood, like what it's gonna take on it. We've already seen them go into some pretty bad losing streaks, like multiple losing streaks after actually getting hot for a little while. It's got to be the weird scenario where they probably look really, really forward to going on the road.
Yeah, looking at a major league ballpark with a picnic area in the outfield is just a weird optic to see. And you mentioned before, this is not a year thing. This is multiple years. This will be your home for the aforementioned future. And we need to start breaking ground in Vegas to make this happen. And I wonder how the New York offices of MLB are feeling right now. Is this feel like
Yeah.
a success so far? It can't, right? This is just a bad look for MLB. Among the stories we've been glossing over, the Rockies, the Orioles not playing their best, and this athletic story seems to loom large as the most egregiously embarrassing across baseball. It has to be what they did to Oakland, and not to get into all those details, but it's an embarrassment to have them play in that ballpark and bring that brand of baseball over there, just facility wise. And it's not even completely as hot as it's going to be over there in Sacramento.
No, it's rough, and it's a shame because they have some like bright young stars that are there too that Oakland would show up for. They'd be all in on them for sure. I mean, I'll give you a little bit of good news, A's fans. Nick Kurtz could return to the A's lineup Monday, so he may not be far away. It was kind of a shame. He had just gotten hot, hit a bunch of home runs kind of in a span of a couple days, and hurt his hip. But it looks like his time out might not be too long.
All right. So as we wrap up this episode, we're going to come around third and tell everybody what we're looking forward to for the rest of the week. All right, as we round third and take the helmet off and throw it in the air, and people are throwing bubble gum or whatever as we score, Devin, what are you looking forward to for the rest of this weekend, the rest of this week? What do you have your eyes on?
I'm going to give you a few things. I like to try to give you one, but I'm going to give you a few here. Some of them obvious. Juan Soto just made a great catch, by the way. That's breaking news. So I'll say Mets Dodgers first of all. 4-game set. This is a kind of a litmus test, I think. I mean, the Mets just had the softest part of their schedule. White Sox, Rockies back to back, and now they go out here. I'd honestly be happy with a split if they can take 2 of 4 in LA. I'd be pretty excited about that. To be not excited, but I'd be pretty okay with that. To then go on, I think we then go back to face the Rockies. So like it's a soft landing spot after this. So Mets Rockies for sure. Super regionals, we mentioned it. So entertaining. If you're not tuned in, start now. And then I'll give you some non-baseball. The Knicks, to some people's surprise, fired their coach after their best season in many years. Mixed feelings about it, I think, amongst Knicks fans. I'll be watching to see if there's any news on who's replacing Tom Thibodeau.
Certainly, that was covering all the New York airwaves today, and it was breaking news, and the coverage was just nonstop, wall to wall. it was shocking, especially removed from what Jalen Brunson said after the game and felt like he was the guy. And maybe if you read into it, I know that we've talked about it endlessly at this point, but maybe Brunson was just annoyed that that was the question that was asked, not that he thought that Tibbs was the guy. I don't know, but you said it in our group chat. If they don't have a replacement that is the heir apparent to what's going on there, this seems like a misstep. But if he lost the room, this almost feels like akin to what Girardi did in 2017, where they were just waiting for a reason to let him go. To come within 2 games of entering the NBA Finals for the first time in since 1999, and this team has been embarrassingly bad outside of the Tibbs era. I mean, you can really name on one hand the coaches that have taken this team to be competitive. Tibbs is one of them. He changed the culture. Maybe he's the bridesmaid, not the bride. Maybe he'll never be the guy to get them over the hump, or maybe they believe that the guy that's coming in, the incumbent, wasn't going to do it. Now they have to get someone in there that will finish the job. It feels like they didn't give this team enough time to marinate. And this is really this is not the same group from the year prior. This is a different group. Cat brings a different energy, and he just had the extension. He never even got the chance to see this through. It was 3 years after next year. Unless there's another guy who's immediately coming in and we're all going to just sing the praises, this feels like such a Knicks move. And I hate to be pessimistic coming off the season, their best season they've had in many years. But Tibbs was a huge part of that. And it felt like a gut punch when I heard the news today. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming, to be honest. And I know we won't get too far in the weeds because we know this is not an all New York show, but I'm gonna wait and see. Here's the thing: there's been all this argument of like, was it a Leon Rose decision? Was it a James Dolan decision? If it was a James Dolan decision, we're in trouble because typically when he gets his hands dirty, things go wrong. Whether it's the Knicks or the Rangers, typically he stays pretty far away from the Rangers. But we've seen in the past when he gets too involved with the Knicks, things don't go well. So I'm hoping it was not a overzealous reaction by the owner and that this was actually well thought out and they do know exactly who they're going to go with now. And hopefully we're excited about it.
So as far as what I'm watching baseball wise is NCAA. And we talked a little bit about the Cinderellas and you mentioned them before. Murray State, they knocked off Ole Miss and now they're going to face Duke in what is being considered a David versus Goliath matchup here. They scored 42 runs in 4 games. And they had a little bit of a cheeky jab that kind of made its rounds around college baseball Twitter to the SEC, especially with them having all the
I saw this.
The seeds, and it said, quote, "It just meant more." So they're riding high right now. I think this series is going to be really fun to watch. We mentioned Coastal Carolina. They're a team that is definitely a team to watch. The other thing is the Arkansas series is going to be fascinating because they're going to be hosting Tennessee, definitely the most high-profile super regional that's left out there. And you can look at the historic nature. The coach of Arkansas, Dave Van Horn, this guy has built this contender. You read all about him. We mentioned bridesmaid, not the bride. This guy has 379 wins since 2017, 7 College World Series appearance, and doesn't have one. Doesn't have a national title. So maybe this is the best shot he has. So this is something to watch as far as personalities outside of just like the games. The quality of games have been crisp and quality. I can't recommend it enough, guys. Get into it. It's fun.
Yeah, if you're looking for a team to latch onto, UTSA, man, you got to love these guys coming out of nowhere. So I think I'll be cheering them on. Murray State, I'm going to go for the underdogs, of course.
So if you guys want to support us again, please follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Tablesetters. Engage with us. If you want to submit a mailbag question, we'll certainly read it on the air. If you can do so, please leave a 5-star review. And I want to help us financially. Go to Dugout Mugs, use code TS10 at checkout, save 10%, and it goes a long way. Tell your friends about us. Talk about baseball. Embrace the game we all know and love, and continue to watch baseball. All eyes on baseball, especially after the NBA Finals will be over a couple weeks from now. The focus spotlight goes straight on baseball, where we all love it to be.
Yeah, let's go Thunder.
Yep. What about the Stanley Cup? You have any affection towards either one of those teams?
Nope.
dude, I saw a person walking around Brooklyn rocking a Florida Panthers jersey. The bandwagon is real. Who wears a Panthers jersey? I understand they've been in 3 straight Stanley Cups. That team, come on. You cannot wear a Panthers jersey in New York. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to that person.
Unless it's a John Van Beesbrook jersey, the old school jersey. That's a jersey you used to wear playing street hockey. Other than that, if you were in a Barkov Lion King Nala jersey they wear that looks like a godforsaken soccer jersey ripoff that the Panthers wear, that team sucks. I hate the Panthers. Go McDavid and the Oilers.
Yeah, I guess I'll go for Oilers too. Yeah, the Panthers did piss me off. I mean, they eliminated the Rangers last year when we thought we were going to get to the Cup. So I guess I do have some dislike for someone there.
And shout out to the Islanders with the number 1 pick in the draft coming up soon. So we'll see what goes on with that. But we're not a hockey podcast. We do love all our teams. We love baseball. We'll be back next week. We have a guest coming up. You want to talk about our guest?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we got to squeeze something. We got to squeeze a sorry Trav in because we haven't done it. I just want to let everybody know, any wrestling fans or people looking to get into wrestling, if you want to get into it, don't watch the 2013 Royal Rumble. It is the most ridiculous set of people, like all just like 90% garbage wrestlers. I'm just going to throw that out there. Maybe watch it if you just want to see how bad it is. But all right. Sorry, Trav. We'll squeeze that in. And yeah, I believe we're scheduled as of now for a June 12th recording with Jack McMullen, the new radio voice of the Miami Marlins, and also one of the main guys involved in Just Baseball, which continues really to break onto the scene of baseball media. So we're really excited about that one.
Very, very cool. I'm excited for that guest as well. I love having different point of views and perspectives on this podcast. And that's what it's all about, getting everyone on here to discuss what we all know and love. If you guys are in the Brooklyn area, Brooklyn Comic-Con this weekend, I'll be announcing a lot of hours of pro wrestling. Come see us. I'll be in the ring in the center of all of the madness that is Brooklyn Comic-Con. You guys can follow me at Acefield Retro as well for my wrestling stuff. There's my cheap plug. I'm booked every single weekend here in the month of June and July. A lot of good stuff, traveling around, doing what I love. I love baseball. I love pro wrestling. And we love all you guys. So we appreciate you. Devin, any final words before we say goodbye to everybody on this beautiful Tuesday night?
I will not be at Comic-Con. I will be coaching, substitute coaching my 5-year-old's T-ball team. So I don't think anyone should come watch that, but I just feel like we're plugging stuff. So I'm going to plug that.
Well, Mariah May is in NXT. So there you go.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, she just debuted.
Nice.
But we will talk to you all about the baseball. Follow us at Tablesetters Pod after a while.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been